Alright, looks like we're good. Cool. How's it going, everybody? We haven't made videos on this channel. Does this channel even exist anymore? Actually, here, you know what? I haven't checked in a while. Before I start drawing, let me... I want to see when the last time was I put out any content at all. Let's see. What is this? No, that can't be it. Was it really that one? October? No, that can't be it. 1 second here. No. Here, let's go to YouTube here. I'll put in, we'll click this. And let me see. Videos. 4 months ago. Yeah, I guess so. October, November, December, January, February, March. Alright, so it isn't as bad. It's definitely bad. But it's not as bad as like half a year ago. Okay. Stream is healthy. Cool. Okay. Sorry, it's been so long that there's like actual new settings and stuff in here. Cool. I think we're good. I don't know. Whatever. I'm gonna get warnings. I know I always get warnings when we stream about bitrate and Samo flanges and Johnson rods and all those kinds of things. Anyway, how's it going, everybody? What I'm going to be drawing today, or do a little work. This is more of like a personal project here. This guy. My chair super squeaks, huh? Let me just, I guess, sort of back this up a bit so you guys can check it out. This is going to go on Patreon. It was supposed to go on last month. I just ran out of enough. I didn't have enough time to finish it, so I'm trying to get it wrapped up this month as well. I don't even know what this guy is. It's more like a D&D fantasy kind of thing. So, same sort of start to all this stuff. Then we do the line art, inks, and now we're slapping the colors on there. And I can talk a little bit about this too. Where is it here? Yeah. So one of the things I'm trying to push a little bit more this year is, I don't want to say like very polished color, but sort of like what we did before, you know, where I have like one layer of shadows and then one for highlights, pushing it just a little bit more. And I got this idea from, what's the gentleman's name? I think it's Patrick Brown. I think that's his name. Pretty sure. What he does is he has a... Here, let me just get all this on here. Oh, I have it in here. That's where it is. Okay. So it's like this airbrush. Sort of gives you like a general idea of where the lighting is going to hit. And then we start going into cell shading. I'm going to be toning these down. I'm just leaving it pretty heavy right now. Just so that it's easier for me to see where everything's going. But we're going to do this, and then one more pass of cell shading, and then you do the exact same thing but opposite for lighting. And this is one thing I'm trying to get a little bit better at, which is we're going to have this lighting. We have to figure out a color scheme for this. I haven't even done the flats yet. And then you sort of take the lighting you have and you colorize it. It's a pretty standard thing in, I'll say, like traditional painting, especially with digital stuff, where it's like you start with the grayscale and then you add color to it. I don't always do this. You know, usually I'll start with flats and then just put the shadows over top. But I do like the results. Like sometimes it's just easier to shut off certain parts of the brain while you're drawing, you know. And this is definitely one of those things that I would like to be able to incorporate into my workflow, is understanding how to colorize some of this stuff. It's not, or at least it hasn't been for me, as easy as just being able to colorize something backwards, working backwards, sort of like how I'm doing now. To me, it feels a little different than how I'm used to working, but that's how we grow, right? Yeah, I think we're good. Just want to make sure we're getting the light source coming this way. Even though we have this little like shadow layer on there, like this layer here, I just turn it off. It's a little bit easier to flood fill things in. And I've had some conversations with people, but like not really here on YouTube, where I used to live all the time, about style and direction and stuff. And this year, you guys will see, for those that are interested, or anyway, I should say those that are still following anything that I'm doing. The Kirby stuff I was doing last year, I'm doing that from time to time. There's a project I'm working on right now, where the client has asked me to work in that style. It's a lot of fun. But since I don't really do comic book work anymore, it's mostly what you're seeing right now. This kind of thing mixed with, I call it like asset creation, which is to say, like for video games, like we'll say like for mobile games, like design a treasure chest or a door, those kinds of things. This sort of style works a lot with what I've been able to do with that. So I'm just going to keep pushing that this year. Let's see how far that goes. A little shadow under here. And one of the things that lets me do is I've been going back and forth with like if I want to add heavy shadows like with the inking, kind of like in a comic book sense, you know. But the more and more I'm trying to learn coloring a little bit, year after year, it's sort of like it's almost not worth it since I know it's going to be colored. Since I know it's going to be colored, I can add all those shadows in myself. If you guys don't follow another artist named Chamba, or is it Chamba? Chamba, I believe it is. The Chamba. I've just been in love with that guy's channel. I don't know how often he actually does content anymore, but there's a period of time he was making like a video a day. I don't know. I'm thinking of getting more and more closer to what he does. Like that guy just does like actual. It's not like it's a shortcut or anything like that. He just whoops, got the wrong thing here. He just does like cuts, kind of like what I was just doing with this lighting here, but he has multiple different layers going for different layer effects. It's just cool stuff. Make sure we get some texture here, at least with the shadowing. I think we'll just get a little bit of light in here. Just get some of those overlapping shapes, not shakes. Okay, and we'll get this one back here. Oops. Was it C? Yeah, C. Put in some new key bindings the other day to help with this sort of painting. Just switches between my main color and this right here, which is, I can never remember the name of it. It's like, I guess, just transparency. I think maybe we'll also put some pupils in here for shadow. I don't know. Might be cool. One thing I'm trying to get a little bit better at too is, you see there's all like these folds and stuff, is working kind of like how we do, I don't want to say gesture drawing, but when you're just drawing in general, trying to figure out shapes, right? So we'll flood fill this in. I'll try to show you here. There's a lot of complex shapes going on, but using what we have here, and cutting in, cutting out, this kind of stuff. Try to manipulate that shape that we just created. That makes sense. See how we're able to, like, since I'm not using black and white for shadows, we can just make some of these details that we probably would have had with black and white. Put a little rendering in the shadow, maybe. Yeah, looks good. Kind of cool. So the light's coming in here. I know I got a lot of folds. Just have a little bit of light. Pull in some more shadow here. Hey, how's it going? I don't know who you are. BE. It's been so long since I know some cats still. I remember some people's names. But BE, I do not know. But anyway, thank you. Thanks for popping in. Hope you're doing well. Let's put some more of this in shadow. Oops. I have one of these, I think they're called like an express remote or something, for the Cintiq. Since this Cintiq model I have doesn't have any buttons on the screen, that's what I'm used to using. So I've got this device over here, and I try to use it more and more every time I'm using the Cintiq instead of the keyboard, just so I get more and more accustomed to it. Depends what I'm doing. Sometimes it just makes more sense to use a keyboard, and then other times like this, where we're like kind of in it, you know. There's only a few buttons we're actually hitting. It's just remembering what's what. So if you see me zipping around or undoing a lot, just bear with me. I feel like he needs like shadow up here or something. I don't know. We'll see. Feels kind of. We are going to erase, so we're going to blend and erase some of these shadows, so it's not always just sharp. But like I want to keep a cell shaded look. You know what I mean? Because that is part of the style, and I don't want to get rid of that. Actually, let me show you guys so you have an idea. Like, I'm not trying to copy necessarily. I am in a little bit more copying to learn certain techniques because I like the result this artist is getting. So let me open up and I'll briefly kind of show you a little bit of where I'm kind of coming from with this stuff, just so there's more context for those that are interested. Beach Noob, welcome. How you doing? Be, you used to use a controller for keybinds too, right? Couldn't get used to that doing it myself. Like again, yeah, man, that was way back. But yeah, I totally did. Um, my Cintiq broke, my 21UX. The cable in the back snapped or something. I'm not quite sure what happened. But very fortunate. My work got me a new one. I need it for work, and now that we're all working from home, it's kind of like a give and take sort of thing. But anyway, so like I finally have an HD machine here, so I get more real estate, and it's the colors are a lot better. Before, when I was using the 21UX, I always had to have it off on the second screen, my other monitor, because the quality was better, so I could see things like whatever colors I'm putting down, I was able to see it more appropriately. But anyway, the new models of Cintiqs, at least the one that I have, it doesn't come with any buttons on there, and I'm just used to using them, so it's still taking me. There's a lot of years of muscle memory that I have to relearn. We'll say, you know. Okay, so let me just go here. Art. Then we'll go down to tutorials. Save all this stuff just to show you guys here. Um, I know I just kept saying his name and I've already forgotten it. Is it a B or is it? Let me just go through them here. Patrick Brown. I can't recommend this guy's workflow enough. I just love the way he does stuff. But I guess I could just turn off layers. I'll show you some of the stuff I made, like some notes after watching some videos. But anyway, this is generally right here. Whoops. Yeah, so it's the Omni Man. Excuse me. So this is what he broke down, sort of like how it works. So you got your line art, your flats, right? And then the first thing you're going to do, at least what I like to do, is always shading. So you do this soft shading, then cell shading, and then you go down here and you do the same thing: soft lighting, cell. I call it cell shading, but it's like cell lighting. We'll call it cell lighting and cell lighting. And then these are the steps. Why I like this kind of stuff is just it's a formula, right? I can start this, even though there's a lot of adjustments in between. Generally speaking, most pieces they're not the same all the way through. But I like it as like a starting point. So if we turn up the background, let me just turn on Omni Man. How did he have this? Yeah, let me turn all this. Where's your line art? Okay, so we'll say we have the line art, but if you look at his cell shading, right, like it's very, I don't say simple because it's not, but it's chunky, right? Like there's a lot of big, powerful shapes in there. Um, and where is his? I apologize that there's not a lot of. I don't have this more organized. Wait, this sort of has. Where is it? How can I grab this layer? Select layer. This one. All right. Well, I guess it's sort of there. I don't know why that lighting is on. I must have a layer on. All right. So this layer here, he's merged a bunch, so you won't see it all. But if you crank it up, this is sort of like the general flow. You'll see there's like some shadow down here. This is that airbrush. And then he goes ahead and adds the multiply layer. Again, a lot of these are all merged, but it's super simple. Then you go in there and you add the highlights. But the trick here, right, is like look how kind of gross these shapes are. But once you get your lighting and you change the line art color, you know, it's good. I like it. I might go in there and I might like what I like to do anyway, right? Is grab this where is it? Our smooth watercolor, you know, sort of blend some of this out so it's not so stark. But that's just a stylistic choice. That's not anything this guy's doing wrong. Um, but it's hard. This is the adjustment I'm talking about, where it's like drawing in cell shading, you know, like this abrupt, very aggressive style, and then smoothing it after, as opposed to like building it up from what's it called, from nothing. Yeah, no, it's totally cool, man. I dig it a lot. All right, and as you can see, like I'm doing a little bit more, I would say, at least in this. I know I've seen some of the stuff the guy's done with other work. Very detailed work. And mine's kind of going in the more detailed stuff, right? Like, look at all the little chunky shapes and all that stuff. And this is something I'm just going to learn over time, right? Like, how much is too much and how little can we get away with to pay off for bigger things. Like, maybe it is just a big swooping shape like that. Hey Zipgun, how's it going? I just looked up Chamba. Chamba, is it? I can always, yeah, it is Chamba. I always say Chamba. Biggins works for it. Yeah, no, this he's a great guy too. I love. It's one thing to watch people's streams, right? Like even what I'm doing right now, and it can get boring when artists are just working. And I get it. I'm not gonna fault anybody because I'm in the same boat. You can only be you can only be so entertaining when you're just creating art. But I've zipped around. I think I even found when he went through his uh, one of his streams. Actually, let me pull this one up. Tutorial. Chamba. I got something from him too. Did I save it down here? I'm just a tutorial junkie. This is how I learn. Just seeing people do their process and then try to copy it as best as I can and take certain things from it. Where is he? Chumba. Here it is. So this was from one of his streams. I don't remember what it was, but it's a screenshot of all of his layers and then sort of like how he breaks it down, what each one means. And somewhere in here, I've got it listed like the video link, so I can always go back whenever I want to try to attempt it. But it's deceptively easy. That's how you know it's a good artist. When it looks simple, but it's not. But it's not. All right. Keeping the superhero sort of stuff here, right? We're going to have the giant muscles in there. Get some bulky shapes. Power shapes. Go in here. Fill all this up. All right. Get away from the keyboard, dude. Use these. Okay, go in here. Knock in some of this. I think I want to have like some of the fabric pulling in here too. Erase that. Might have to come back to that there. I'm just going to flood fill all this here. This is pretty much all sunken in shadow. But I am going to cut in some light here with the lasso. Go in this way. Come in over there. See if we can get some texture a little bit. Yeah, that's okay. I'm the same way when it comes to watching streams. Watching someone work is usually better than asking how they do something. Totally. I think we're going to do a little bit of rendering. Nothing. I don't want to get nuts. I'll get nuts. I know some of this is going to get smoothed out. This is also like learning stuff. That's all this is. And I said at the beginning, I don't know who this character is. It's just like a random. I think I've been telling you guys over the last few streams, or just videos in general. I know there was definitely some with the Kirby stuff. how long has it been now? I feel like it's been at least a year where I got into solo role playing games. So think about like the easiest ones, Dungeons and Dragons, but playing by yourself. I know it sounds like the most depressing thing in the world. You got no friends, nobody to play with, but I don't know. I found that it's actually been tons of fun. I can't recommend it enough for people to try. If you can get over the stigma that you might put on yourself, where it's like, well, D&D is a social game, and I'm not going to disagree with that, but solo, you want like experiments in boosting your creativity. Can't recommend it enough. Anyway, uh, but since I started playing, I've definitely gotten back more into the fantasy art stuff. That's like where my wheelhouse is, right? I have a lot of fun, and I wish I could do more stuff. So I'm trying to push myself a little bit to do that. So like this piece here, I hate calling them that. This drawing, I've been working on for I don't know, maybe 2 months, maybe a month and a half. I've only been putting like a few months, or not a few months, a few minutes here and there on it. So it's going to be built up over time, not to like oversell it or anything like that. But it's again one of those things to just learn and try some new stuff. But where I was going with it before was when I start drawing this kind of stuff, it makes me go, okay, well I can see this guy. I want to learn a little bit more about him. We're gonna play some D&D with this guy. We'll turn him into a character, play a few sessions, see what he's about. There's just something cool about that kind of stuff. I don't know. It reminds me, honestly, like when now that I've been doing that for a bit, of when I was a kid playing make believe. But I don't know about any of you guys. If you guys experienced this when you were in grade school or maybe even high school, I don't know. I don't know how old you guys were when you got into this kind of thing, but there was no, or I hope you've been able to experience this. I know it was probably easier for me to do because I wasn't on the internet. The internet didn't exist when I experienced this, what I'm going to eventually talk about, uh, which was just grabbing a piece of paper and, if you had an idea in your head, drawing it down or just scribbling something and letting your imagination take over. Really like an actual exercise in just creative freedom and thinking and relaxation. Like, my son is 2.5. He's almost 3 now, actually. Time's flying. But I can already see little things that he does where it's like just genuine creative thinking and just having fun. Coming up with stories or whatever, that kind of thing. So that's what this stuff sort of reminds me of. Reminds me of doing that back in the day. Coming in, Jojo? Alright. So yeah, I like if you're an artist and you guys got like some downtime, can't recommend it enough. Try it out. It's good stuff. Hey, Create Now, how's it going, man? Family's doing good. Everybody here is fine. How about yourself? How you holding together? Alright, get a little bit of texture in there. Oh, somebody had asked on some post. I don't know if it was on Instagram or whatever. I don't even know if the person's here. I'm just gonna say this. It's such a random time. It might get you guys going. I don't know. If I turn this off, this is something that I can't honestly remember where I learned this from. Probably again one of the million videos I've watched. I want to say in the direction of it's probably where I learned it was actually Control Alt Paint. I think was the site. I don't even know if it's still there. They do YouTube videos, and it was drawing portraits and stuff, starting in grayscale and adding color to it later. This is where I learned it in Photoshop. The exact video and stuff, I don't know, but I've been doing it since. So you just worry about grayscale, and then you throw like a blend mode over top. And it just gives it like some character right here, right? So check this out. I'll duplicate this. Hey, Jojo, come on, you gotta relax, buddy. So I downloaded a whole bunch of gradient maps from Clip Studio. They've got like the free sources you can go check things out, right? So just check it out. But anyway, you can just double click, maybe, right? And it just applies it. That might be backwards. Like that might look good. What I dig about this is like, especially when you're doing the backgrounds first, right? Like go through a couple of these, and like I like this one too. Like it gives it a feeling. And this works especially if you've got like a character with a background. You know, if you don't have that, then probably won't work. Or not that it won't work. Like even this one I like a lot. I know there's a couple I was going through, like that were green. Like even this, I love it, but I just didn't want to go too dark. I didn't want to. I don't necessarily want to go nighttime. Like I love this one too. Like that looks strong. But do you guys see what I'm saying? And you can apply this to anything. So anyway, what's the one we ended up going with? This one, and then I threw in just some grayscale rocks, which I will jazz up later. Trying to use the same method that we're going to color with. So we've got the cell shading and all that. Edward, I just want to say I love your work, and I just bought a Broly print from you. Oh, you did? Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Actually, I think I remember sending that out. Did you get something else with it too? Let me see, man. Boom, 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 boom. But I appreciate the support on that, especially those older drawings. A lot of people, you know what, Etsy has been awesome. I recommend everybody try to sell something on Etsy. I think where I first heard about doing something like this was from Sketchcraft, and what he did, and I could be wrong. I could be just making this up in my head. But what he suggested he did, or at least I don't know if I made the connection to it, or I just copied verbatim what he did, was just posting like drawings you do on Etsy, and then when somebody buys it, then you can make your prints. That way you don't get like massive stock stockpiles and stuff. But anyway, the Broly ones and all that, like a lot of people don't buy that stuff at all. So thank you so much for doing so. Normally it's like the chibis. Chibis have been massive. I would say like the Gloomhaven chibis that I did, they've probably made me just as much money in comics over the last 10 years, as crazy as that is. Okay, yeah, there you are. Yeah, so you just got the. Well, I'm glad it made it to you, brother. I really do appreciate that. I'll drink water, and thanks for coming in too, here, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so I got the rocks here, and then we did the same thing. I just desaturated a bit. I actually kind of like. All right, I'm a massive fan of just highly saturated things, and that's probably a bad thing. But I know I downplayed it here because I think I want the character to pop more. If the ground's saturated and he's saturated, it might not work. So this is just like a grounding to put stuff in. So I don't think we're doing it with the character, but for backgrounds, I like constantly do this little trick with blend modes. Highly recommended. All right, let's get. You know what? I'm thinking of maybe flooding everything else in shadow here. Yeah, let's just do like a super gross outline. And then we'll cut out the light. I think a lot of people paint this way. You know, like everything is in shadow and then you cut in where the light hits. Makes a lot of sense. I just get a little, like, I don't know. I come from like a highly illustrative background, and it makes sense the more I do it. Like right now, you guys will see what I'm talking about. I'm painting in where the light would hit. But from comics, like especially a primarily penciling background, you know, you always build up. So I would always start with my line art, and then I would start building in the shadows. And you know, not everybody works that way. I think most people probably work that way, unless you're coming back from like a painting background or something like that. Just gonna put a little trim light here. Oh, oh, I'm hitting two buttons at once. Etsy's tricky. I tried it, but Etsy kept taking my work down. What's that? Considering Instagram shop feature, but I don't know why I need to set up a Facebook account. Oh, I don't know if it's like a parent company or something. I have no idea. It's weird that you're getting shut down though. Are you posting nudes? Huh? Naked pictures of yourself? That might be why. I don't know. It's weird. Just gonna put in like a little hits of detail here where the light's hitting. Just so all this stuff doesn't get totally lost in shadow. Get a little there, a actually, let's knock this back a bit here. So it looks like what I'm trying to do is make it look like the sword is kind of coming at us. Maybe away from us. I'm not sure. Might make sense if this side's getting hit a bit then. Maybe like that. And so if all this is folding over, we might start getting a little bit of light here. Maybe at the top again. Some rendering in there. Just for kicks. Lighting. You can never escape it. Okay, go a little bit like that. A Mega Man print, really? That's very weird. Sorry, dude. My experience has been like pretty buttery smooth. Is it only like? Do you not have a Facebook account? Is that why? Like they require? It's been so long since I set up an account, so I apologize. I'm not quite sure, but do you not have Facebook? And is that why they're saying don't do it? How's it gone? I want to get into storytelling, but the minute I try to write something down, I get stuck. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't know how to weave them together into something finished. Any advice? Wow. You know what's interesting about that? I would have, and I'll give you some advice for sure. Whether or not there's any value in there, I don't know. Hopefully there is. Um, I would have comic book advice, like how I would write a comic book, and then now that I've been playing, as weird as it sounds, solo role playing games, uh, I have a different approach. The thing with solo role playing games is they have a lot of things that are called, and there's a reason why I'm telling you this. I know it might not be story. It's story related for sure, but it's not like comic books. So just hold on. I don't even know if you're coming from a comic book background, but with solo role playing games, the thing is what they do really well is when you're playing by yourself, it's just make believe unless you have some rules, right? And a lot of the rules, or something that you definitely need, is what you would call an oracle. So you can do a lot of checks and questions that get answered with that, with the oracle rolls, as well as it's almost like there's writing prompts inside. And why I've found huge value in that and extremely enjoyable is you'll or I'll end up you'll inevitably end up as you play connecting dots that seem totally not always unconnected, but a good chunk of the time they don't make a lot of sense together. But as you play more, ask more questions and stuff, your brain is an amazing puzzle solving tool. All it wants to do is make connections with things. So you'll start coming up with connections between plots that don't make sense, and then eventually you'll get a lot of aha moments, and those are super satisfying. So, reason I said that is there's two things. One, if you want to go the solo role playing route, I have a video actually called The Adventure Crafter. It's a role playing tool to help you create adventures. I use a deck of cards. You can just get like an actual book, roll some dice, and connect it. You could actually put ideas you have in there, make some rolls, and it could get your brain thinking and putting things together in order to connect those dots to give you a good story in ways that you might not inherently think of. Like if you're just struggling with ways to put things together, it might be an excellent resource for you. That video I put on there, and why I did is I know my audience, which makes sense. This used to be a heavy comic book related channel, so a lot of the content and people that follow me are from that background. So I put it on there with the context of it could be used for comics. And I think I even just did a really quick example with my comic that I had, JESOP King. So anyway, check that out. There might be some value there. I don't think this shadow makes a whole lot of sense, the lighting on there. But if you want like some practical, like a different sort of thing, I'm a big fan of Doug TenNapel's way of writing. I'm not quite sure how much of it he does anymore, but I used to do it when I did JESOP King. Any ideas I ever came up with that actual script related things is here. Let me open up a new document here so I can draw while I talk. I'll use a medium. Yeah, we'll use a medium. All right, so you need note cards. You don't need them. You could use sticky notes, whatever you want. You grab 3. This is your beginning, middle, and end. And I know I definitely have videos like this. Oh, you did? Okay, cool. No problem, Zip. I have videos on this as well, so you can check these ones out. They've years ago we did this, but and check out Doug TenNapel's videos as well. I don't even know. He might have got banned from YouTube or something. His channel might have got deleted. He got into some politics stuff. But if it's not there, there's a lot of value in there. I like to start with the end. So if I need to know where I'm going. You might be a different sort of writer, so this might not work for you. But what I like about this, coming from an artist first and a writer second, is when I'm drawing, when I sit down, I'm not the type of guy that just puts scribbles down and then eventually get something from it. I need to go, am I drawing like a guy, a character, a superhero, and then get the scribbles, that kind of thing. So you get your ending, then you do the beginning, which is the total opposite of the end, and then the middle is how did that transition happen. So just for sake of argument, and this is going to be awful, I think this is the one I always do. So we'll just say like, whoops, we'll go here. We'll say, I'll just put SH for superhero. Superhero saves day. That's a little bit too vague. Superhero, it wouldn't be arrest or captures. What's there say captures? Captures villain. So what would be the opposite of that? You can always come up with a whole bunch of different ones, but the opposite could be, if I'm just going off the top of my head, villain escapes prison. Cool. So what's the thing that makes the transition happen? I'll just say villain steals doomsday weapon. Cool. There's our story. Villain escapes prison. He somehow steals the doomsday weapon, and then the superhero captures the villain. But we're not done. We're never done. So the next thing you do with these note cards is you make a beginning, middle, and end for each of them. I'll stop it after this one because this never ends. Well, it does. I mean, you're supposed to... Essentially what you do is once I get these 3 note cards, you pretty much throw the top, like the first 3 you did, out. Then with these ones, you're going to do a beginning, middle, and end for each one of these, and then you throw these ones out. And then that's your story. And you'll probably have like a... maybe there's a moral or a reason for your story to even begin with. The reason why this might help you with yours is if you've got a whole bunch of ideas, you can find where they go, and you can kind of like plug them in. But the moral of the story might be like, this is the classic one, stealing is wrong. So you have to show some way that stealing is wrong. I'm just going to start with the end one here, okay? So superhero captures villain. So maybe it's the end is superhero returns doom weapon. Okay, so it's gone back. So the opposite would be villain almost uses it. Uses doom. I'm just going to put doom. And then the transition between the two is, I'll just say, a battle. All right, so the end act would be, imagine if you're watching a movie, the last half hour, 45 minutes, or if you're reading a comic, if it's 22 pages, half of that's 11, so Act 2 is 11 pages. So that means Act 1 and Act 3 are roughly 6 pages each, 4 to 7 pages each. So we could just say the last 4 pages, or, you want to put a lot of battle in there. The last 7 pages could be, it starts with the villain, struggling in some way. This is why you would do another beginning, middle, and end, because using the doomsday weapon could mean a lot of things. But it could be, he's struggling with trying to figure out the tech, whatever it is. The superhero finally gets out of something that the villain set up for him, and now they have this big epic battle back and forth, and inevitably he loses, and then superhero returns it. But anyway, this is all you would do. And for me, why I like this is like a skeleton and a structure. When you're done, you could read it all the way through. You can make a thumbnail for each one of these, like a visual thumbnail or something, and your story's done. And then you might want to sit on it for like a week or a day, and then just take a look at it. I like them on index cards because what's cool about that is you can bring them places. So you can just flip through. You can jot little ideas on the back, draw little sketches and stuff. Or if you've got ideas, like I said, some people, what they've done, and I saw Doug Tenaple talk about, like in that example I just showed you. Let's say I really want to show an octopus shooting a laser beam out of Poseidon's trident. Like that's a lot of moving pieces there, right? But I want to include that, so I just write that down on a note card, and then when I'm putting my structure together, I could kind of see where does that fit, how does that change stuff, and then just put it in. That's the scene I want. Anyway, I don't even know if that was way too much more than you asked for or not, but I hope it helped you. That's how I approach it. And I definitely know it's not everybody's bag of tea because I've talked about this. Uh, because when I found it, I don't want to say it revolutionized the way I approached writing, but it was definitely something that make it not as intimidating. What I just showed you took like no time, and that for me is empowering because as an artist first, the first thing I want to get to is drawing. What is going on? What button did I press for this? But the first thing I want to do is get to drawing, and when I'm stuck at thumbnails or plots or anything like that, it's preventing me from drawing. JESOP King, for all of its flaws, it was created the same way, in that exact same method. Um, so yeah, I have only positive things to say from that. So Doug's channel is gone by the way. Oh, that's too bad. Did he? Do you know? I don't know if you would know. I don't follow a lot of people. Like I don't follow a lot of comic book stuff anymore. It's weird. I had a kid, my whole life changed. But what happened? Was it because of the politics stuff, or did he delete it? Do you know, or was it? It's a shame because like, here's the thing, man. And I'm not going to get into this because that's not. I just wanted to stream because I was working today. And I thought I'd say hi to everybody. It's been a while, but I don't really care what political beliefs somebody has. If I enjoy what they do, like if you're an artist and you believe in whatever you want to believe in, there's most likely a chance that there's something I don't believe in that you do. If I knew you in real life, and I can guarantee you there's stuff I believe in or that I do that you're not going to agree with. But the shame is in the cases where, somebody puts a lot of awesome content online because the content doesn't matter, right? Like learning how to color or shade or XYZ is powerful. It's always relevant. It's always good to learn. Always be a student. Try your best to always be a student. That kind of mindset, right? Um, and when that information goes away, it sucks because who knows where you are in your journey. You might. I can attest that I know I have heard things people have talked about, like let's say, kind of what I showed with that blending mode, or even what I'm doing right now, where it's sort of like working in gray and then applying color. I can't count the amount of videos I've pursued and I've watched for that stuff, but I wasn't ready to understand it yet. It took multiple times to get to it. Um, so when I'm ready to actually understand it, if I wanted to go back to find it, I can't. That's such a bum out. Such a bum out. Okay, so I think this first stage is done. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to delete it, set it to multiply. And this is what we're going to do here, okay? So I'm going to put this layer back on. This is like that soft kind of layer. This shadows, we're knocking that down, so it doesn't look as dramatic anymore. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure. But the next, we might bump that up a bit. We'll see. This is more of a stylistic thing, like how heavy do you want your shadows. We're going to do it again. I'm going to knock this down to 50. And we're going to, now what I'm looking at doing is adding the heaviest shadows. But actually, before I do that, I'm almost jumping ahead here. Let me get my smooth watercolor and my eraser. We're going to use a soft one. And I'm going to blend and erase some of this stuff. I'm going to use the keyboard on that. I'm just going to blend some of these rough cell shades. Not all of it, because I'm looking for cell shading. But some of it definitely could use a nice little blend. Look over here. The hair, maybe I'll just give it a little touch, a little bit like that. We'll go down here. So you see how this is all rough? I don't actually mind it, but I'm gonna, maybe if we just erase it a little bit. That, see, it gives it like just a different feel. I'll just paint in some more, maybe. Maybe I just killed a bunch of it there. It's interesting effects. Another cool thing about learning this stuff is like learning your tools to like, how do I, you know, what this just showed me is like if I had like a blade, you know, where it's like just covered in ice or water or something like that, like a nice real slick reflection. I think that could be cool. Shade some of this up a little bit. Let's bring these in. I like my folds to be pretty crispy, so I'm not going to go nuts here. I'm going to pull some of that in like that too. Yeah. I don't want to make things look too airbrushed. It's not the goal. You can just sort of bring some of this in too. Cool. Getting there. We're almost done. Pretty fast step here. Yeah. Okay, what I was going to do was start doing some erasing as well. What I think I'll do is just to keep it a little bit less destructive, I'm going to put a layer mask on there. This way when I erase, I can always get it back. Watch, this is what I'm talking about. So you go there, if I were to get rid of that mask, it's what's the word? Non-destructive? Is that the idea? So I'm gonna just maybe erase a little bit of this because I know I'm going to have some light coming from back there. Just where like light's sort of starting to come back. Maybe we'll put a little bit like, because that might be a little bit more like bounce light in here, you know. So I'm worrying a little bit more about bounce light on some of these things. Like this might just get drenched. If that's not going to be a solid shadow back there, we'll figure that out. Might have to make this a lot more bright down here. Preserve some of that. Bring a little bit in the nose. Just a little bit right there. Definitely a little bit on the horns. Down on the hair. Just soft. Like I say, once we lower the transparency, you might not even notice some of this. But you might feel it. That's what sometimes a lot of these things, it's sort of like it's helping the next step. It might not even show up in the final, but yeah, something like that. So if I were to turn that off, this is what it looked like before, which is fine. But this just gives it just a little extra volume, I feel. All right, let's knock this down to 50%. We can always play with it a little bit later. We'll go 55. So you see what I mean? Like it's not totally there, but it's there where it needs to be. All right, we got the same colored gray. And multiply. Let's grab our inking. And what this stage is all you're doing is you're looking for wherever the absolute darkest areas would be. So because ear holes would be one. Maybe the crack up over there on his lip, over here with his teeth. Maybe his, I apologize for all the sniffling too, guys. Getting over a cold. Maybe we'll put like another. I don't want to go too nuts with this, but I know down here in particular, all the folds that are going in there, we're going to have a lot more in there. Get a little bit in the hair. Going back a little bit, I know I'm just all over the place right now. But some people ask, so, you know, if you're not drawing and you're not on YouTube, what the hell are you doing? So I know I'm not drawing as much as I used to. Definitely not drawing as much as I used to. I've pulled the plug on a lot of that. Mostly focusing on, and this might sound greedy or greasy, that's fine. You know, it's a personal call. But I'm just focusing more on like what makes more money doing art. So it's usually commissions or prints, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But it shifted my mindset more in terms of like not taking on anything and everything, especially if it was comic related. You know, like I feel like I'm out of comics at this point. If something were to actually happen that required me to like have to get a job, I've talked about this before. I think I would still try to do comics, but the pay and the amount of work taking in that I have to do for a comic book page, for the enjoyment I get out of it, like I can't keep lying to myself. It's not something that I actively do. And I'm trying to make sure that I got free time for my family, my son, and all that. But also making time to do things that like I enjoy that aren't art related, right? So it's a lot of solo role playing games, board games. But one thing that was a really long winded way of saying, check out a game for those that are interested called Iron Sworn, totally free. There's playthroughs online you can check out, for you to you can give it a quick check. It's like D&D. It's not totally the same. It's a different rule set, but it's more narrative focused. And it's helped me just like appreciate and enjoy the medium so much more. The stories, guys. You can take the artist away from the stories, but you can't take the storyteller out of the artist. Doesn't matter. It's always going to come back. You're always going to find a way to get there. But whoops. I had never known about this. Like D&D was about my only experience with these kinds of games. When I was growing up, we didn't play too much D&D. We played it enough for me to know that it was actually something that I really enjoyed. But getting people together to actually play, it's so tough. At least it was for me. And people wouldn't, you know, like the stories would change, or people wouldn't like it anymore, and they would fall apart. Even though, like, I might have really liked it, or somebody else might have liked it, and I didn't like it. They wanted to keep playing, and it was just like, okay, I guess it's done. But anyway, so that's how I was used to playing it. What this Iron Sworn is I guess it's like a whole genre of another game that came out called, or a system called Powered by the Apocalypse. And there's an article you guys can check out. I've talked about this before to friends and other people, past streams too. I think it's called like a 13 HP dragon, like a 13 health point dragon. And the whole point of it was to talk about using descriptive words and storytelling, how in D&D, like a dragon's probably got, I mean, depends on what version. Let's say you're playing the current one, like the 5th edition. I'm more than sure it's probably at least 100, maybe a couple hundred. I don't play 5th edition, but it's a lot. And it's more of like a video game where it's like an HP bar and you're just hacking away at it while it does cool stuff. But with this Powered by the Apocalypse engine, the way they described it, it's all like on moves, like what do you want to do, that kind of stuff. And just by describing what the dragon was doing, you know, like, here's the thing: even though a dragon in D&D, like 5th edition, like say, let's say it's got 200 health points. Okay, so you know it's a big foe. You're gonna be there. It's kind of like, think of World of Warcraft. You're gonna be having to fight it for a while, right? grinding it, attrition. You might die. You know, the fear of death in D&D, modern D&D, I don't think is necessarily there. You know, for good or worse. It's more heroic fantasy, which is cool. But you know, when you have something that has 100 hit points, you're just doing certain things. But the way this guy described, like, the dragon, you know, swooping down, he only has 13 HP. A guard tries to grab, like, a horn to sound the alarm and stuff like that, but before he gets a chance, this shadow lands on him, and the man literally falls from the sound tower like shredded paper. Okay, I don't care if you got 13 HP. You don't want to get to that. That sounds incredibly dangerous. You know? So that piqued my interest, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. So anyway, Iron Sworn is a lot of people compare it to like Skyrim. The setting's like Vikings, I guess. You don't need to do that setting, but anyway, that's when I tried, and it's quickly become like my favorite thing to play. So I play a whole bunch of that. And the cool thing is, right, like whenever a mood strikes you, you can just play. You want to play for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a couple hours, knock yourself out. And I never feel like it's been wasted time, which it arguably could be. I don't know. Guess it depends who you're talking to. Okay, so if I turn this off, just so you guys can kind of see, it's adding just a little bit of extra volume. Right? That's all we're looking for. And I'm noticing I'm adding a little too much of it, so I got to pull back. We don't want a whole bunch. It's mostly just in the like deepest shadows. I also think I'm just going to also flood fill a little bit here. Let's just grab our soft brush here just to pull some of this so back. I don't want to go too nuts. Just get a little lip of shadow here. Okay, I'll come down here. A little texture to it. That didn't feel like I hoped. What time is it? Okay, I think we're going to wrap this up soon. Got a lot of work done for it today, which is good. I'm going to go play a card game. A little Marvel Champions. Highly recommend that for more solo play. What I find so interesting too about solo, I know when COVID dropped, it's pretty much like a lot of this stuff just started flooding into my YouTube feed. But the idea of solo, like always playing with friends and stuff, like I get it. But like I've tried to explain to other people, like especially with like let's say like solo D&D, where it sounds weird, but like if you really enjoy something, and you have to wait until you can get people around to do so, and you let's say you just get the urge that you just want to play, you want to go kill some goblins or whatever the hell, find out what happens next in the story, but you have to wait until your friends are all able to get together, and like it's just not happening. Doesn't it make sense to like at least try a little solo play? Like if it just opens it up so that you can play more of what you like. You don't have to wait for people. Isn't that the whole point of like the way things are these days? You know, you want to watch more episodes of a show, it better be out now. I don't want to wait. Shadow down here. So anyway, that's why I'm getting a big kick at all this solo stuff. I'll play with people if they want to play, but at the same time, if I'm in the mood and nobody's around, I can still play. It's even better. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up now. Let me just turn all this off here. Whoops. Where was that shadow? Right in here. Right, let me just draw it. Here. Just try to think of where this massive shadow would be. Maybe like that. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like that. I think what I'll do here is I'm just going to... Can I just grab that with a wand? Can it be that easy? Alright, well, what I want to do here is just erase. I don't want it to be that heavy. Maybe something like that. Just a kiss of it. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I almost feel like I want this to be a little bit more in shadow. Like, yeah, soft, like, push this back a little bit more like that. Actually, let's try it. Let's see how this goes. Just a little bit. I don't want to go nuts. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Just to really set that arm behind him, you know? How did that look before? Yeah, that's better. Gotta be careful, man. You start playing this dangerous game of, like, making selections of everything and, like, really pushing things back, and then everything's got to get polished like that. And when one thing doesn't, it just looks all out of whack. Anyway, thank you guys. I'm going to take off. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks for the chat as well. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.